Yes, Kenya. Tamu sana, tamu sana, tamu sana, yes. The situation in Kenya is moving from worse to worst. The cost of living is going up on a daily basis. The situation is worsening. On the ground, Kenyans have been crying out for help, but nobody is extending a helping hand to them. In fact, the elected leaders who should be speaking on behalf of the poor masses have joined the government, and they are helping the oppressive government to oppress Kenyans. And some have the audacity to say that they're joining the government for development. That's the current state of affairs in Kenya. It's getting terrible. The only problem, an African leader will never resign. In fact, an African leader would rather die in office than to resign. And I'm saying that because if William Ruto had got some conscience, he ought to have resigned long time ago. And I'm saying that because it's obvious the situation is beyond him. He has no clue, no formula on how to address the issues affecting Kenyans. He can't just solve the problems Kenyans are going through. Ruto ought to have resigned, but instead of resigning, himself and his close allies, associates, they are just stamping and boasting on how they will win the next election. While it's very clear they are doing completely nothing. They are getting it completely wrong. But even with that, they have this audacity to brag that, we will win the next election. And some political commentators are also entertaining that thought, encouraging Ruto and his team as they mess up. In this video, I want us to listen to some very emotional and painful remarks on what Kenyans are going through. For the remarks are going to help in building our analysis in this video right now. Listen to this.
Mimi nikiwa ndani ya Kericho County, Kipkelion, tunaomba Uhuru Kenyatta utusamee. Ulisema tukichagua William awe rais wa nchi tutalia, na kweli tumeamini Uhuru, tunalia. Uhuru, njaa imetuua, lakini ulisema ukweli. Uhuru hatukukusikiliza. Uhuru, tungekusikiliza, tungekuwa tunalia mpaka leo. Na mimi naomba wakale wenzangu, tuache mambo ya kusema William ni mtu wetu. Hii Kenya inafaa iongozwe na kila Mkenya. Uhuru, tusame.
Wakenya rekei tutie igokira. Hii economy ni mbaya. Imegonga kila mtu. Wajaluo wana noma na kugoma, lakini Kenya wanadilia ni ukweli. Na sisi tumenyamaza hapa tu, ati tunajifanya ati hakuna mtu anaumia. Tunaumia. Tuachane kunyamaza ati tunajifanya hakuna kitu tunaelewa. Ukishika dhao hakuna kitu inahesabika, ni vitu mbili inaisha. Tuachane kunyamaza. Tutaonekana sisi wote ni wajinga, lakini tukitokea sisi wote, umoja ni nguvu. Ni sisi tulimweka kwa kiti. Tuacheni kunyamaza. Hiyo ndio shida yetu. Tuacheni kunyamaza. Na shida ya watu wengi ni ati mnajifanyaga mjui na mnajua. Hiyo ni kitu iko. Tuacheni kunyamaza.
Jina yangu Igwere no Samuel Roti Tarapogo. Mimi ni mwana kijijini wa Kiparpe village. Kusema kweli, mimi nimechoka. Kangetwe, nimechoka na serikali ya Kenya. Arap Ruto, wewe ni mdanganyaji. Arap Ruto, umetanganya sisi watu wa nyumbani. Wewe Arap Ruto, kusema kweli. Hii ni nini? Arap Ruto, tumekonda. Uliambia sisi ukiangalia Biblia chini namna hii, sisi watu wa nyumbani tutanona. Hii ni maneno gani sasa? Hui Mungu. Utarata. Arap Ruto. Chepkoech pipi yangu amekonda. Siwezi tamani Chepkoech tena kusema kweli. Na hii msichana nilipata yeye 1944. Amekula chebuleleti ya kuku amenona. Sasa Chepkoech siwezi angalia mara mbili. Amekonda hata akitembea mbele ujue kama anaenda mbele ama anarudi nyuma. Arap Ruto. Konejo. Hii ni nini nasikia hii umepandisha bei ya kila kitu duniani, hata majani. Majani ya $5. Tutakunywa ndio namna gani kusema kweli? Hii ni nini kusema kweli? Umeipisha sisi Arap Ruto. Mimi nimeipiga. Ama tiliot msima lakini Arap Ruto mimi nimeipiga. Nimeogopa hata kutembea mbele za watu.
Yes. Those are brave Kenyans who have decided not to remain silent but to speak out. And that should be the spirit. Kenyans should not remain silent, but they should speak out when the government is getting it wrong. And I'm saying this because it's very clear. Ruto and his team are getting it completely wrong. We can't have a government saying it's broke, and then on the other side, it's spending money aimlessly, carelessly, creating unnecessary positions. At the same time, it's saying it's broke. We can't have a government that is continuously lying to its people. Even after election, instead of delivering on what the government promised when it was still campaigning, they are still giving new promises that they are not keeping. And some Kenyans are cheering them up, encouraging them. I think Kenyans should be patriotic to tell the government that the government is getting it completely wrong. If you look at our neighbor Uganda, when Museveni took over power in January 1986, Museveni himself made it very clear that the biggest problem with African leaders is that they cling to power. It's almost 40 years after he took over power and is clinging to that power. What can we learn from that? Dictators always do the exact opposite of what they are saying. When Museveni took power, he said that the problem is African leaders clinging onto power. 40 years later, he has clung to that power. When William Ruto was campaigning, he made so many promises. As the president now, he is doing the exact opposite. I'm seeing that as an attribute of a dictator. That is one attribute of dictators across the world. They always do the exact opposite of what they promised. And Museveni never just became a dictator in Uganda. Ugandans allowed him to be a dictator. We still remember that Museveni removed the two-term presidential limits in Uganda, and then also he removed the age limits. Those were serious amendments that allowed Museveni be a dictator he is today. Ugandans entertained that. In Kenya, I'm seeing a very high possibility where Kenyans are entertaining a very uncouth culture. A leader or a politician makes a promise to the people. He gives a pledge that if you elect me, I will do this, 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 and that. Upon assuming power, he does the exact opposite. And the Kenyans are cheering him up. That's a very uncouth culture that Kenyans should reject. And you cannot reject it if you are silent. Kenyans must now be brave enough. They should come out to reject all this political conmanship by this regime. Because these are all just political conmanship. That's exactly what is happening, ladies and gentlemen. So Kenyans, was your gope? Kenyans should come out. Kenyans should come out. It's no longer about Raila Odinga. It's about Kenyans themselves fighting for themselves. Raila is old now. The next generation will suffer more if the current generation do not stand up to resist an oppressive regime. And the only way Kenyans can resist that oppressive regime is by doing what is provided for them in the Constitution. The Constitution allows Kenyans to picket, to demonstrate, to protest. These are rights that Kenyans should not let the government to deny them. Let me stop it there, ladies and gentlemen. But in case you are watching us but you have not yet subscribed, subscribe, give this video a like. To our fans and subscribers here, I'm very much humbled, very grateful for the kind of support you are giving me here. God bless you, God bless Kenya. If you want to support our forum, I've pinned my number on the comment section. Contact me through the number. Let's meet in our next analysis.